unusual couple, you know.
Oh, I don't think that was ever in question.
Well, it's Saturday. It's Saturday morning, in fact, which means it's time for the PJCN Watercooler WandaVision. We're talking episodes 3 and 4 of the Marvel Studios series on Disney+. I am your host, PJ Campbell, and with me, as always, is my partner in crime. His name is Maxwell Haddad. Hi, friend.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm tired.
I can see that. It was a long night for all of us.
I was up late, and then I was
Yeah.
up early, and then fell back asleep.
Yeah, and even
But I'm
Oswald's
here.
like, Dad, go back to bed.
He wants to come in and say hi.
I'm sure
Sorry
he
for the
does.
distraction.
No, it's okay. We stand Oswald in this house. We like to hear from Oswald. And I like seeing we've got a lot of our, usual suspects already over here in the chat. They're excited talking about WandaVision. But before we get into that, do we have anything going on coming up that we should be worried about?
Yes.
Oh.
As you know, Sundays is our unwind, our casual chat show. Tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about some big boys.
Ooh.
Amongst other unwinding nonsense, we're going to do a deep dive into the lore of Godzilla and Kong. And we're going to be joined by a couple people who are somewhat of an expert on Godzilla.
I'm sorry, what were you talking?
Yes, that's rude.
Oh, I'm sorry. Big boys, Godzilla.
Rude.
It's a joke. Hi, Sean! Okay, well that happened.
Then on Monday we have a watch along of American Pie.
Yeah, son.
Which is available on HBO Max. So watch young Jewish boy fucking apple pie as his dad tries to guide him in the ways of manhood. Really thrilling stuff. Tuesday is an exciting day because we got a new box for you, Box Bath and Beyond. I do believe our patrons have already received that link. But for the public at large, you'll be getting this on the Tuesday. Really good. Another fine episode we produced. Then I don't know if there's a Sunday soundtracks on Wednesday. I don't have any art. I'm not Chris Clark. So we'll see. And then Friday, watch along we're doing once. This was patron voted. It was supposed to happen in January, but scheduling happened. So we'll be doing 2 patron voted watch alongs in February. We're, playing a little catch up because also on Tuesday we're doing our January 2021 patron AMA in February. So we'll just be doing 2 of these in February to make up for it. So if you're not already a patron, do check it out. See if there's a tier that's right for you. All of our patrons from $2 and up get access to the monthly AMAs. And if you are a patron, there's our thread over on the patron page where you can put in your questions early so we have time to prepare. And, of course, just a special shout-out to our patrons, our executive producers, Brandy Parker, Brandon Buckingham, and Ricardo Franco, and all our wonderful producers, Mike K., Stephen White, the Youth Critic, Bedore, Jake Berlin, Anton Prucher, Tyler Birch, Patricia Carrillo, Chris Poconoy, She-Ra Potato, and Molly Damon. Thank you all so much for your continued support. Please make sure to sign up for the terms and conditions because you never know what the side effects may be, and we're not responsible for anything that may or may not happen to you. Thank you so much.
That's really impressive considering you just woke up. Can I just say that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, perfect. Well, we got a great show for you guys tonight. We got some special guests to come with us. Joining us once again, you saw him earlier. Sometimes he goes by the Professor. His name is Sean Sullivan.
By the way, we're just going to try this again.
Oh, okay. Now I hear it. Is that a Godzilla roar? Okay.
Yeah.
It's
I
very
realized
low.
my audio sources were effed. Well, it's really low because I don't want to blow out your ears.
I mean, it was so low that I could barely hear it. So it was almost like a baby Godzilla who was like hiding. I don't know. Well, it's good to see you. How are you, man? That's better. Now
there we go. That's much better. Okay, cool. I'm doing great. I've got my champagne glass with some tequila and Monster.
What does that mean?
I still am not sure what I'm supposed to put in the champagne glass. I'm just told I need to have a champagne glass now. It's in my contract. Yeah, I'm here. We're talking about Wanda and Vision.
That is correct. That is how it works. And we're joined as always by the great. I don't know how I did that. The great Twain Burke. Hi, bud.
Hello.
We're off to a fantastic start.
Yeah, today
Somebody
is
say
the day.
Monster.
Yeah, I could use something more than coffee right now.
Yeah.
Could I interest you in some tequila?
Oh no.
No.
I had a really weird experience yesterday
off with El Jimador.
wherein I took something at about 9:45, right before our watch along, intending it to hit about halfway through the watch along. It hit at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So
I got a text from Max. So I took something 6 hours ago and it's hitting now.
I don't know why or how.
God
but
damn
was
it, Sean!
quite-
Look at what you're doing. Now you're trying to get other people in trouble while they're working.
However,
Oh.
Brandy just spiked your coffee, so.
I'm gonna pour myself a little bit of whiskey, I think, here, just
Dear
for Sean.
Lord. God, you people are crazy.
Well, we got one more guest tonight, or this morning. I don't know what time is. Time is a construct. It's Eric. Hi, Eric.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Good,
And
man.
yes,
How are you?
I'm great. And yes, time is just a construct. It could be any time you want it to be.
You know, Patrick, I noticed you introduced everyone with their last name except for Eric. It's either Mueller or Mueller. I'm not sure.
Mueller.
It's Moeller. But I just call him Eric because
But it's
I want
important to
Eric to
pronounce
be
it
that.
right.
Yes.
Good morning to everyone in the
Hey.
chat. And I'd also just like to mention, as you can see up here, we do have a Streamlabs. If you'd like to throw us a tip or have any WandaVision thoughts or questions, we'll be happy to read them on air.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about. Sorry about last week, but I'm actually glad that we skipped last week to come in today because there's a lot to talk about in these last two episodes. So even better that we're doing it together because I think that obviously the first 4 episodes specifically kind of all tie together in a very specific way. But now we can break it all down, starting with episode 3 of WandaVision. I'm going to go around the virtual room. What are your guys' thoughts now about where the show is? I'm going to start with Dwayne.
I think the show is doing great, but it is not going to be as successful as it could have been because they did not release the first 3 episodes together.
I actually concur with that.
I think the first 2 episodes lost a lot of people. There are some people who stuck with it to that 3rd episode. And that 3rd episode, if they were wavering, got them on the hook. And if it didn't, the show wasn't going to get them anyway. But I think it was a mistake to not release the first 3 episodes together. Or even make, the first 3 episodes 2 episodes and make them like 30 minutes. Because to be honest, you needed that 3rd episode to kind of hook you. Because I was not on board with the show until the 3rd episode.
I'll go a step further and say that I think that they probably should have released the first 4 in bulk, and that way, and not and Maxwell, I see you do.
I think 4 is too much because 3 would have been an hour. Like that would have given you a single hour.
And again, I mean, I was hooked from the beginning, but this is more me thinking as like, if I'm looking on the outside, I think that they probably could have gotten away with doing the first 4 because I think that the 4th one ends with a very... Yes?
For what it's worth, I saw just as many people saying that they're now done with the show because they hate that it has gotten rid of the clever sitcom premise that made it so different from the MCU, and they have no interest in more MCU shit. So you can't appease everyone, and I think doing episode week by week is the right choice because it continues the discussion going. People are going to be hooked or not. They're going to come back if they want to or not. Whether or not they released them all at once, people would have watched the first 2 episodes and said, "This isn't for me. I'm not going to watch more." Whether they had to watch it then or wait a week.
I'm not saying that it should have been released all at once. I just think that releasing the first 2 episodes, like they released it episodically for a reason, but the point where they knew that they were going to garner the most interest, they waited until the 2nd week to do that. Like the 3rd episode, I mean, barring this 4th episode because of what happened with it, I think is the most talked about episode so far of the show.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
And I think if that buzz had happened in the first week, it would have been better for the show.
Yeah, and I think, and again, I mean, to Maxwell's point, I think that there is going to be the no appeasing everyone thing too. And I was more looking at the model of like The Boys, where they had dropped 3 or 4 episodes, and then you waited, like, then it was a week out for everything else.
Yeah.
That was more what I was thinking, is you could do the first 4 or even the first 3, because I think the third one ends with such a great cliffhanger regardless, that you're hooking people with that, and then it's the week to week from there on. But either way, I'm happy we got there. I'm going to go over to Eric. What are your thoughts on the show?
I've actually been loving the direction of the series because I love like the first 3 episodes. It's literally 50 sitcom, 60 sitcom, 70 sitcom. The Lopez's have done an amazing job with the theme songs for each episode. I don't think they get enough credit that they deserve. But I can see like what Dwayne's talking about, where because I've had coworkers like, I watched the first 2 episodes, I don't get it. And I can understand, the need to have the first 3 put together at the same time, because released at the same time, because that's how the critics got it too. They got the first 3 at the same time. So if you're reading all these things and you're like waiting for that, that end of the 3rd episode, that's the turn, that's the hook. Like my wife, she wasn't interested until the end of the 3rd episode, where she's like, what is going on here? Why is she being sent out into the middle of wherever? Where are all these people from?
Right. And that's, again, the critics getting the first 3 was an interesting choice, and I was surprised by that in a way. But I understand why they also gave them the first 3, that you ended up with that hook. Going up to Maxwell, what about you? What are your thoughts on the show?
Great show. Loved every episode so far. Just gets better and better. But I hope they stick to the sitcom premise as we go on. I think that's what makes the show special and different from everything else MCU. And I hope they continue to find a balance. As much as I love this week's episode, I hope the sitcom premise isn't totally ignored for the back half of the series, because I think that'd be a mistake.
It looks like
with Loki coming up and Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming up, and She-Hulk and Moon Knight and Hawkeye, we're gonna have ample
normal MCU
television. And what I found so special about this show is its uniqueness and its sitcom trappings. And like Eric said, we've done 50s, 60s, 70s. I want to see 80s. I want to see the WandaVision does Friends. I want to see WandaVision. I would love to see like them switch to, instead of a multicam sitcom, like they do like an Office mockumentary type thing, like a very 2000s sitcom
or a reality TV show.
I was going to say
a way to make the balance work. That's exciting.
I don't know if you guys saw the trailer.
We already know we're going to go back to the sitcom format. We know we're going to get at least 80s, because we've seen the promotional images of Catherine Hahn in the 80s garb. So anyone can, like, I understand people want that, but like we're gonna get it back. It's not that it's going away from it, but there is stuff happening in the real world that I explored.
And we are getting a Modern Family episode, it looked like.
I would just like to say that Lost ended its first season panning away from the hatch being opened. Okay, WandaVision did its hatch at the end of the 3rd episode. So its pacing and its revealing of secrets is so far accelerated from what we've used to with television. And I think people, because so much is just released in bulk now, have gotten so used to instant gratification.
Right.
Where if they don't have like twists and turns and amazing revelations in episode 2, they're done. Which is unfair to the creators of the show. We spend so much time talking about what we want something to be instead of engaging with it in what it's presenting. And it's fine if you don't like what it's presenting. But critiquing the show based on how it decided to release its episodes or not is not really critiquing the show. It's exiting the vacuum and context of the show and talking about what's ultimately marketing.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that either. I just think that there is a conversation a little bit to be had just with different release models in general, but it's the same thing that you and I have also talked about, of review a thing for what it is versus what you wanted it to be.
Right. And it was interesting to me, because I definitely have seen plenty of people who didn't appreciate or get those first 2 sitcom heavy episodes. They didn't understand what the show was doing and are now fully on board. But I also saw a good number of people, more of the serious cinephile type for what it's worth,
right,
who feel betrayed now that, oh, this is just another MCU thing, which, I mean, to be fair, what the fuck do you expect? This is the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, this was Kevin Feige
I went to
doing.
McDonald's. I want a Whopper.
Don't
It
go to
always-
don't go to
Always
Disneyland
reminds
and
me of the
complain you see
Arrested
Mickey
Development
Mouse.
gag where he opens the freezer and there's a bag that says "Dead Dove, don't open," and he opens it and goes, "Well, I don't know what I expected." But you know what my favorite MCU stuff and so far this is where it's allowed to have a vision, pun intended, that feels specific to the work and the director while also elegantly winding in the continuity at large, which is why I think Thor Ragnarok, The Winter Soldier, Black Panther especially are also successful because they feel very much of their creator's vision while also existing in the MCU.
Iron Man 3 also is a great example.
Yes,
of that.
that's in my top 5 MCU movies as well.
my
And this
number
show
one.
so far has given me that. Like, it feels like they hired a showrunner who knew exactly what she wanted to do, and then Matt Shackman, who's brilliantly directed all 4 episodes so far, and they're being able to play in this MCU sandbox while also breaking some of the rules. So the balance for me has been impeccable.
I could not agree more with that. Because I was locked in from the beginning, like you and I talked about, and I'm glad to see that it's finding its balance. And I think that this episode specifically of episode 4, and we'll get into it, did some brilliant ties to the overall MCU, really pushing things forward and also solidifying its place in the world. Sean, I'm going to go to you now. You're the last one. What are your thoughts on the show now?
So, as one of Maxwell's aforementioned hardcore cinephiles,
Sean,
Do you
cinema does not begin and end with Star Wars.
Do you prefer Truffaut or Godard?
I like Chocolate Truffaut's. Ben Goddard is great, but I would much prefer to eat a chocolate
And
Truffaut.
who do you think was a better Dogma 95 filmmaker, Vinterberg or Von Trier?
I think Kevin Smith has the best version of Dogma, in my opinion. It's a really formative film for me.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You got any
post-COVID,
more for me, Max?
Sean and I will be going on the road playing mid-sized theaters around the country in a new
Yes,
two-man
please.
show I like to call Artist and the Idiot.
I love that.
Artist in the Ambulance is one of my favorite songs by Thrice, personally, but
Oh God, Sean.
so look, here's the
thing.
As he should, Brandy. As he
Here's the
should.
thing. I am hardcore in the camp that they should have released the first 3 episodes.
But they didn't, so who gives a shit? Let's move on. Like, honestly, like, it
I
doesn't
know,
matter.
but everyone else got to say their stance on this, so here's my stance. That being said, it didn't lose me only seeing the first 2. I had questions. I had said, if this next episode doesn't do it for me, I'm probably not as interested. Episode 3 did it for me, though, right? Episode 3 was a huge step above and beyond the first 2 in kind of interweaving that interconnectivity and the Marvel and the sitcom thing, and interweave the Marvel with the sitcom. The problem with this show is it is a Marvel show, right? Now, what they're doing is something amazing. The way they're doing this sitcom, the oddity, the what's real and what's fake kind of dichotomy between Wanda and Vision and then the rest of the residents. It is interesting, but the fact of the matter is, when the show is marketed as a Marvel show, and especially for us who are in this space, who are a little more dialed in, and we know, oh, well, this was pushed back so that it lines up with this, and this has to come out before X movie because it's going to interconnect with Y movie. We know that, so it's even more so for us. Like, we're going to be looking for that. Now, episode 3 was a huge shift, and I wholeheartedly agree with Matt. Or episode 4 was a huge shift, and I wholeheartedly agree with Maxwell. I want to get more of that sitcom vibe. This episode 4 was my favorite episode of the season, but because it was a break from the sitcom model, not because it's replacing the sitcom model. Episode 4 makes me want to go back to the sitcom model and maybe have a little bit more of the MCU S.H.I.E.L.D. vibe. I know it's Sword, not S.H.I.E.L.D., but it reminds me very much of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and that kind of television. It makes me want to go back to the sitcom with a little bit more of that interwoven.
Real quick, we did get a Streamlabs
I was
donation
just
already.
gonna say you beat
Yeah.
me to it.
From the great Brandy Parker, who said, "Thank you all for always making me smile."
Cheers,
to
Brandy.
you, Brandy. And with that in mind, let's talk about episode 3, which was the 70s Brady Bunch episode of WandaVision. The last episode ended with the beekeeper and Wanda reversing things and things starting to go to color. And we ended up in a world where she was pregnant. And that's where we start the episode. She's pregnant. We have a doctor who comes to see her. She's very far along all of a sudden. What did they say? 4 months, I think?
4 months.
4 months when it starts. And she had just gotten pregnant the episode before. What were you guys' thoughts on this third episode and some of its reveals as we started to move forward into it? We'll get into more of it as we go. Things are not quite as they seem and Vision starts to see it. But starting off the bat with that, what were you guys thinking?
I mean, once again, they did an impeccable job of sort of recreating a very specific era of sitcom history. This being the Brady Bunch 70s era, the costuming, the way the set shifted, even the acting choices are all very deliberate. And yeah, you know, as it went on, the facade started to crumble as significantly as we've seen. It's hard to talk about it because we know what happens in episode 4. But I think what's her name?
Geraldine?
I'm trying the actress.
Oh.
Teyana Parris.
Teyana Parris is exceptional. And as she's, you know, that whole sequence with the stork and
So good.
Geraldine trying to tell her story about her temp job and the fruit bowl, that whole thing was like perfect madcap sitcom, like hiding what's actually going on. And you could, so what really interested me is, so in episode 3, we also saw Catherine Hahn and her husband, who we finally saw, suggest to some extent that they know where they are isn't.
That's not her husband.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not her husband.
Oh, that's not?
No,
Nope.
because she said when the power went out that her husband was still missing at one point or whatever.
that's
Her
her
husband's the one with the
Yeah.
mustache, I think.
No. Her husband has not been seen yet.
Yeah, we have not
Okay.
seen the husband. Just,
Oh.
Excuse me. So that's the neighbor on the other side. So they're
Yep.
neighbors on either side. Okay, so we see
Yeah.
the two of them talking, and at least to some extent, they are aware that it's not real, that there's some level of artifice going on. So that makes me question, does everybody know? Are some people more susceptible to the fantasy of it all? Certainly, it seems to me like Geraldine is just playing the game because she has full knowledge of what's going on. When she said he was killed by Ultron, right, which gave me chills. Any reference back to Ultron, I know that particular movie is one of the more divisive, but Ultron I still think is one of the better MCU villains. Mostly because
Yep.
James Spader's voice is so evil and sexy.
Yeah.
But also, I think, and we talked about this in our first episode of Watercooler, that Catherine Hahn's character, more likely than almost anyone else, is probably not who she says she is. And I'm, you know, the Agnes thing seems very clear. But yeah, I thought it was a perfect balance, and I hope that's the sort of balance we see going forward. You have the exterior creeping in on the interior, and then we have Wanda attempting to blur the lines and trick everyone into thinking that they're just in this sitcom existence. But-
and specifically Vision to that point because she's
Right,
trying
that's-
so hard.
Mhm.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say, particularly as far as Vision is concerned. He is definitely starting to realize that something is wrong here. And those subtle filmmaking shifts are what particularly delighted me. When it goes like from the sitcom-y, and then you have Vision talking to Catherine Hahn and the other neighbor outside, the score changes, the cinematography changes. That's really exciting, playing with the form like that.
Yeah.
So to me, episode 3 is the perfect episode of the show so far, in as much as it shows a balance of everything I think it can be. I do expect going forward we'll see more of a back and forth, where we'll go into the sitcom world and out of the sitcom world, cutting back and forth between our 2 sets of main characters, because I would argue we now have 2 sets of main characters.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really like our 2
when
new
we go
main.
to episode 4.
I really like our 2 new mains as well. I think that, or the 2 or 3 depends on if we consider the director a main. Jimmy Woo and I really should know Kat Dennings' character name, Darcy.
Who can I just say? Yeah, to jump ahead to that, this is the best Darcy's ever been in the MCU. It was the first time that I felt like they didn't use her just for laughs, and she felt like she was actually like a doctor in the right way, and they used her to push the narrative forward, which was a nice change of pace.
Whoever decided that's who they would bring back for this is very smart, because I think Kat Dennings is super talented. And I agree. Like, I always liked Darcy, especially in the first Thor, but she was always a character who I felt like had wasted potential to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
And so to bring her back for this, and she, like, based on what we know about her, she fits perfectly. And she has sitcom experience, and she's funny. And that's the thing, is I know we're talking mostly about episode 3, but for what it's worth, Kat Dennings and Randall Park are hilarious comedians.
Yes.
So episode 4, despite being more serious, more MCU, a true widescreen aspect ratio, they were both hysterical.
Yeah.
And their chemistry was great. And I think the fact that they both have had long runs on sitcoms, Kat on Two Broke Girls, Randall Park on Fresh Off the Boat, makes their casting extra smart.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was 100% a Feige thing, to be like, make sure we use the right pieces to make that, because you need it to feel like there's still a bit of a sitcom element, if you will, in the real world, because of the situation of the show. And so I think putting them front and center together makes a lot of sense, but then you have Monica Rambeau doing her thing. And so the serious aspect of it can be really on her, while you have them kind of, being comedic, but also pushing the narrative forward.
I do think my prediction is every successive episode from here till the end will be a little longer than the one before it.
Mm-hmm. I hope so.
I go with that.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much been the model so far. Everyone's been a few minutes longer. And I think by the time we end, we'll be at like normal, like 40 to 44 minute episodes.
Yeah, I think the last 3 especially are going to probably be the longest. That would be my guess, because I've heard that the last 3 episodes are some of the longer overall, just in general as a thing. So I'm curious how it's going to play out. One of the things I really like, though, was, to your point, in episode 3, the situation with Herb and Vision and the back and forth where, like, there is clearly something off, and Herb doesn't really necessarily want to say anything. And, like, Vision walking outside, and he's like, I think you're cutting into the wall. Oh, so I am, but, like, not really wanting to be like, yeah, I know what's happening. I'm a little weirded out, and especially because they knew that Geraldine was around, and it's kind of throwing everything off. I thought that, to Maxwell's point, this episode really balanced all of it well. There was a lot of the mystery happening, a lot of the world coming down around them, Wanda trying desperately to hold on to it. What about you? Was there any other thoughts on this one that you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, what was going on with the cutting into the wall? Was that just kind of a glitch in the Matrix, so to speak? Was I missing something there?
Breaking the fourth wall, maybe?
I think he was. I think he was stuck there, like, as part of the show. And at that point, he had
already cut through all the bushes.
Yeah, he had cut through the bushes, but he still had to be there to cut through something.
Like, he still had to be there to keep the conversation going, or be there for Vision. Like, I feel like it was him trying to, his way of starting the conversation with Vision about, like, something's not right here, but I don't know how to, I can't tell you directly that, hey, something's wrong. So here, I'm going to keep going. Maybe you'll pick up the subtle hint here.
Right.
Right.
which was one of the brilliant things about when Vision comes back outside and he sees Catherine Hahn with him, and you can kind of hear them whispering. It's like, did she go inside? Like, she's inside right now. And they're starting to realize that something is breaking within the confines of this reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they're telling Vision, like, she's new to town, and he's like, okay, and people are new to town, they're like, she doesn't have a house, which goes back to the second episode when you first meet her. It's almost like she wakes up in that moment when they're at the group, the ladies group, and she's like, I don't know why I'm here. She doesn't know why she's there because we find out later why, but she's kind of waking up in that moment, and I think even Catherine Hahn at that moment is a little like, you're not supposed to be here.
Solid Slate in the chat brings up a good point too, that this is another possibility. Maybe the wall cutting was because Wanda's focus wasn't on, if this is Wanda's reality, right?
Right.
Which plays into episode 4. If Wanda's focus isn't on that action, then that might be where some of the weirdness is. She's so focused on other things like her pregnancy and all that it might be overloading her. She might not be able to keep hold, maybe.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think it's moments where the people are there's a crack in the artifice that they're seeing, and they start to become aware that not everything is right here in Pleasantville.
Right.
Right. It's like the doctor said when they're like, "Oh, so you're still going to go on your vacation?" He's like, "Small towns, you can't leave them."
Right.
Yeah, and the way he says that.
Yeah. Like that's him admitting, he's like, I can't get out of here even if I tried.
It's so funny because I said it before the show. This reminds me the most of from what I've watched in my life is Lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And episode 4 specifically, because episode 4 felt to me like the start of season 2 of Lost, where we shift to Desmond and we see events from the first season play out from Desmond's point of view.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's 100% what it.
Or you could argue there's the episode a little later in season 2, the other 48, where you go to the Tailies.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and to your point,
it kind of reminds me of Otherton.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Like that's like when we first see Juliet and Benjamin with the book club. That's what it reminds me of. Is like that kind of like almost too perfect reality.
Yeah. And to that point, there is going to have to be, in the way that Lost was, we have to go back, right? There is going to have to become that moment where the people on the outside are going to have to decide to go back in. So there is
it makes me speculating. It makes me wonder who they might be able to find to help them, who perhaps wouldn't be susceptible to Wanda's.
I think that there's
illusions.
Let's chat. Remind us at the end of the episode. I want to come back to that thought.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that there's one in particular that we have to assume is going to make an appearance. And that's specifically because the next 2 multiverse things that we're aware of, this character is involved in. One being...
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised as anyone here that Tony Revolori is returning as Flash in WandaVision, but hey.
Yeah, right. Also, I should mention this real quick. Any one of you guys who's online who is like on Twitter and stuff, be very, very careful. A bunch of stuff leaked from upcoming episodes.
I saw it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to. It just was on my feed, and I immediately blocked that person who posted it.
So I was going to say, be very careful. It might even be good to block certain keywords and stuff, because some very major things got leaked out if you're not looking for it. John, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's any secret that this is all heading towards Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I think Wanda is the one who creates aforementioned Multiverse of Madness.
Yes. I think 100% Wanda's the one who breaks everything.
I'd also just like to take this opportunity to sing the praises of Elizabeth Olsen.
Yes.
Who I think is fucking fantastic. And it arguably has the most difficult job of anyone on this show because of everything she's having to juggle. And even in the little glimpses that we saw in episode 4 where she almost turned Dark Wanda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, because I know it's been brought up in the chat. Kevin Smith talked about in episode 3 that look when after,
what did you say?
Yeah, what'd you say? Like that look is just, it's that picture says 1,000 words. That face says everything.
Yeah. She is just incredible.
Did Benedict do press junket for the show? I didn't see anything about that. I've really only
Recall.
seen.
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I only saw Bettany and Olsen for the most part. I don't know about you.
I'm also
Anything else.
losing my grip on reality and don't know what's real and what's my dreams anymore. So maybe I fabricated that.
I mean, they did say very forthcoming that this is going to tie directly into Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's not like that's not a secret
Yeah.
because I know Elizabeth Olsen.
I was gonna say I believe they confirmed that
They did.
Wanda's going to be in it. So
Yeah, she's the
kinda,
co-lead.
Yep.
Yeah, so that kind of tells us all we need to
which
know.
is thrilling because much like Darcy, I think Wanda up until a couple weeks ago was one of the MCU characters with the most unused potential. Arguably the most powerful Avenger.
I did get to see her
and
wreck shop against Thanos. Though, which
she's
was awesome.
really been relegated to a small supporting role, and she's been awesome. Like again in Endgame, that moment with her and Thanos was dope. She's had fun stuff in Civil War and other stuff, but of all the characters, she always felt like a little like an afterthought. Like, yeah, we want her for her overwhelming powers, and we're not going to explore her as a character. And
I
so
think
it's been really
that's
fun to see that.
the brilliance of the TV shows is that now we can explore some of this more. Something like WandaVision, you may not be able to do it necessarily as a movie, but to do it as a TV show, now you can explore some of these characters.
Well, I think Hawkeye's the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was even going to say Loki to a point. This multiverse Loki's kind of cool in a way because it's a different version of the character, you know? So we
Although
get to see...
Loki has been great and explored pretty well. So
Right. But I just mean
this is a different version of
Yeah. Because you're not going to make a Loki movie necessarily. Go ahead, Dwayne. Sorry not to step on it.
I also I'm still waiting for a clear explanation for this within the MCU. And I think people have been confusing like the multiverse with timelines.
Right.
And Loki is not necessarily from the multiverse. He is from a different timeline.
Sure.
Right.
Yes.
So
when he jumps away with the Tesseract in Endgame,
it creates a splinter in the timeline.
It's like a fracture, sort of like the Donnie Darko time travel theory, where they're running concurrently in the same universe but different times.
Yeah, but it doesn't create a different universe,
right?
And I was trying to talk about this on the Inner Geekdom show. I think, and I mean, I have zero confirmation about this, but this is where I see it going in the future. I think that the snap affected other realities within the universe. So I think, possibly the dark dimension.
Sure.
Was affected by the snap because it is part of our universe. It's just not part of our reality.
Timeline. Yeah.
No, it's part of our timeline. Like I'm talking about like Dormammu.
Oh, yeah.
Dormammu is part of our universe. He's just not part of that dimension.
I think you're 100% right.
I think that the snap affected more things than we, have been shown so far, and that those things are going to come to play. And I think that might be where we're going.
I think we're going to see both, though, Sean, because I think that we're getting a multiverse, obviously, as we're seeing.
That's Dwayne, not Sean.
No, I'm talking to
in the chat
down here in the comments.
That is Sean.
Yeah, but
the way you said it right after Dwayne spoke, it sounded you're saying that's a good point.
No, because I was going off what Dwayne is saying, and I had pulled up the comment. Sorry, but to what Dwayne's saying, I think we're seeing both. I think we're going to see the timeline stuff with Loki, but I think the multiverse stuff is also very clearly going to be explored. I think it's going to be two separate realities. Like,
to address David's comment. So what I'm talking about is there's a couple different things that they have to find a way to kind of bring in or find an explanation for from the comics. One of which is the twins. Mm-hmm. The twins were created after Mephisto's soul was fractured after a release of cosmic energy. What does that sound like to you? Sounds a whole lot like
the snap.
What happened after the snap. Now, we have not seen Mephisto. I do not at this point I do not believe we are going to see Mephisto. But who could replace Mephisto and is an enemy of Doctor Strange? Dormammu.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Dormammu is going to kind of take that Mephisto role, and the snap, his reintegration from Tony's snap, is going to be the impetus for the creation of the twins. So I kind of think that's where we're going. Don't quote me on it, but
It's not a bad theory.
I'm trying to put the pieces together as I receive them.
Well, and I think that there's other things that are being created also, because one of the things I was thinking, and I guess we could start talking about the fourth episode, but one of the things that they talk about in the fourth episode, jumping ahead, is that Wanda's giving off like massive amounts of radiation in what she's created in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And we have another show coming up.
It's always fucking New Jersey.
It's always fucking
Right?
But
it makes me think of the Hamilton quote: "Everything's legal in New Jersey."
But what, if I'm remembering correctly, doesn't Miss Marvel take place in Jersey?
No, I think it takes place either in Georgia or Louisiana. Like it's down in the South. I know that much.
The new one, not Captain Marvel.
Oh, the
Miss
new one.
Marvel.
No, Miss Marvel is New Jersey. Yep.
Miss Marvel does live in New Jersey. Even in the Avengers video game, which I seem to like more than most people, she was in New Jersey.
Okay, so
Maxwell.
I think that there is a part
And fun.
of that where I think she is part of how she is going to get her powers as well. And we're going to see some of that. But so episode 3, obviously, Wanda and Geraldine have a standoff essentially. And that's when Maria starts to kind of break out of this being under a delusion almost, or under the power of Wanda. And she starts talking about the real world and talking about her brother, and Wanda makes her disappear, and she is thrown out of this little Westview town and into the real world, where she is surrounded by sword agents and this like base camp just outside this city or this town, and everyone's looking in. So that's where we ended, and we start episode 4 kind of in a way that I was not expecting, but I loved.
This
Oh
this
my
might
God.
be
So,
the most visceral 5 minutes of the MCU.
Yes.
Look, we know Spider-Man: Far From Home dealt with the aftermath of the blip to a certain extent. I would argue it was done in an intentionally comedic way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This was visceral and harrowing. It reminded me, honestly, of the opening of Endgame with Hawkeye's family,
Yep.
where it was very intimate with your focus on one person who, if viewers didn't realize, we actually had a strong emotional attachment to before.
Mm-hmm.
And when she's talking to the doctor, and the doctor's like, "Your mom, the cancer came back. She died 3 years ago." It's just, this is the sort of thing I find fascinating about the blip, and I'm happy to see the MCU start to explore, because there's got to be so many stories like this. It was also the first episode of the show to have a cold opening before the MCU fanfare.
Yep.
Right. And go ahead. Dwayne.
Also, just to talk about the kind of dealing with the consequences of the blip, but how, remember when Tony set out to do this, he was like, to bring everybody back but not lose what we gained. Well, you got to keep what you gained, but look at what everyone who came back lost,
Right.
because you didn't want to go back to that immediate moment.
Yep.
And one of the things that I found, I think that this entire aftermath of both versions of the snap are going to be something that we can explore a lot of. And I think that we've seen it explored in very different ways so far. The aforementioned Homecoming did it a little bit more
Far From
comedic.
Home.
Or Far From Home, yes. Thank you. Far From Home. Now this, but also, we forget Ant-Man also dealt with it, but it was someone waking up in a world where it had happened. He wasn't necessarily lipped away, but Scott Lang wakes up in a world where suddenly he missed it all.
Yeah.
And that was another very visceral moment in that.
And but also, like most of the people who were victims of the blip, for him it was like a couple hours.
Right.
For everyone else,
that is some of my favorite stuff in Endgame, when he goes and he
100%.
sees the sort of monuments that have been erected for those who have lost, and stuff like that. But I agree. I think with each successive MCU thing we get going forward, I think we'll see it. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier will deal with it to a certain extent.
Probably, yeah.
But it was just a brilliant opening to this episode. And also, like I said, brought an immediate emotional connection to Monica.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you didn't realize, for the more casual viewers who didn't necessarily realize that she was her daughter before, a character we saw.
Yeah.
I thought they were smart to play like Brie Larson calling her, Lieutenant Trouble. Like, you can hear that voiceover while she's reforming.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was such a great way to Maxwell's point, to be like, for the casual viewers who don't know, she was a little girl in Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know that. I mean,
Right,
we knew that, but most people may not.
Elizabeth, at a certain point, was like, "Oh my God, is that the little girl from Captain Marvel?" So to see her realize that and then make that extra connection was really cool.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the most brilliant things about that. And I think that this episode in particular, that was the one thing I look forward to going back to the sitcom format. But I loved getting so much time with Monica Rambeau as a character.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
And I think that's also part of why I think that this all ties into Miss Marvel also, because we know that Miss Marvel is also in Captain Marvel 2 with Monica Rambeau. So I think we're going to see some of this all... I mean, the MCU obviously always ties together anyway, but I think we're seeing these pieces being put in place very specifically. And Monica Rambeau is such a great character. I'm glad that we're spending so much time with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she'll probably have a big role in Captain Marvel too.
Yeah, I think so too.
Now, we also met the acting head of SWORD. And I'm just going to say, I do not trust this guy.
Nope, I don't trust him either.
I don't know if it's just because he's like a very typical average white guy in a position of power who I feel like sometimes, and I just don't trust him, but I don't trust him.
I mean, you're not wrong with that assessment. He is.
I've seen the actor in other things, and he's always sort of...
He's always a sleazy bad guy type.
I also want to talk about... So the episode 4 called We Interrupt This Program, which is perfection. Such a great title for the episode. I'm trying to find the actor's name. Josh Stamberg, playing Director Hayward.
Yes.
I don't trust this guy.
And anyone who watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. knows that I believe it's in season 7. There is a Hydra agent that shares the last name Hayward, so there may be a connection there. And I don't know. It's a common enough last name that it could just be another guy, but like it is something that they've done before.
All those white guys have those same last names and look the same. So
especially when they're in position of power.
And also that he is not going to be the director of SWORD. I don't think for the foreseeable future.
Well, he's the acting, so yeah.
Well, because anyone who knows that the big name for the director of SWORD is actually an alien, and it's Abigail Brand, who leads SWORD against the Skrull in Secret Invasion. So
which we're of course also
which we're getting a show. So SWORD, after Monica reintegrates, gets sent to explore this mysterious thing happening in New Jersey, and there she meets Jimmy Woo. And this has been
he's back.
Been all over the internet. I like Ant-Man and the Wasp quite a bit. I think I'm a little higher on it than a lot of people. One of my favorite running gags in that is Jimmy's obsession with Scott Lang's close-up magic. Yeah. Like in their final encounter, Jimmy's like, I just have to ask you, how did you do it? What? The card trick. And so when we first see Jimmy here, and he's introducing himself to Monica, and he produces his business card, I was like, he learned it. I was so happy for Jimmy.
And I'll say,
I also love that Randall Park was so smooth with it too.
Yes,
he was so good with it.
And I'll say again, this is the little continuity, right? In the MCU, it's the little things where a character moment from a movie, how long ago at this point, is brought back in such a easy way, where it's like he did it. Yes, Jimmy Woo. Yes.
Also, I just want to sing the praises of Randall Park. And if you haven't seen the Netflix rom-com that he co-wrote and stars in, Always Be My Maybe, please watch it, because it's him and Ali Wong, and they co-wrote it together, and it's so funny and romantic. It's one of my favorite modern rom-coms that I wish more people would watch. He's so funny in it.
It's fantastic.
It's great.
The relationship with him and his father in that movie.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But Randall Park is perfect for I want Jimmy Woo to be the new Agent Coulson in that he just appears in a bunch of these different movies and is getting himself involved because I think he's a great actor and he brings that inherent comedy just because Randall's such a funny dude.
I think he's going to be a part of Sword by the time this is all over.
I think so too.
Oh yeah, I love his exchange with the sheriff when Monica shows up and he's like, "Wait, let me show you what the problem is."
Good.
He's like, so it's almost like the. He's like, "Where are you from?" Eastview. It's like the Shelbyville to Springfield.
And the giant Westview sign is just sitting there. Yeah, and I agree with this. What Mike K said, Jimmy and Darcy are great together. They have good chemistry.
Which is why I love this one too. Why am I shipping Kat and Randall already, or at least as a buddy cop comedy? Absolutely.
My wife Sarah shipped them the second they started sitting next to each other. She goes, "Yep, it's happening."
I mean,
then we see Darcy in this van. And I love where she's asking them what their job is. And there's the one guy who's like, "We're supposed to not talk to each other." And she's like, "Okay, you're lame." Boy Scout, right? Exactly.
And then he was like, "I'm a what is it?
He said he was a chemical engineer. Nobody cares. Yeah, no one cares.
Can you confirm, Eric, that you are wearing a Thundercat shirt?
What I am wearing is the '80s Avengers T-shirt. So you got your Thundercats, Transformers, He-Man. You got it all.
I love it.
Reefism is always interested in
T-shirts.
Our T-shirts.
He's always sad if I don't have a horror T-shirt on, which is pretty much never at this point. So.
I was gonna say that doesn't happen. The only time you don't have a horror T-shirt on is when you don't have a shirt on.
Pretty much, yeah.
So if we ever see you not in a horror T-shirt, just assume you got taken over by a pod person or a scroll.
Yes. Unless we're going out and I have to be fancy, then I'm.
So there's this big Sword multi-agency facility set up on the outskirts of Westview, which is now we know the name of the town that the sitcom is happening in. And they're trying to figure out what's going on. Darcy gets a high reading of a particular type of radiation.
Quickly, I'd just like to state the fact that I'm really proud she got her doctorate. Like she's officially a doctor now.
Yes.
Like when
she was an assistant before.
Yeah, she was assistant before. Again, it's just the same thing with Agent Wu doing the magic trick. It's just nice that she finally got the doctorate. I'm so proud.
Yeah, of it. That's a little thing that I wonder if she's going to be in Love and Thunder. I don't know. I haven't heard.
I don't know. I don't think
so. I think most of Love and Thunder is taking place off-world currently.
Yeah.
So then maybe she'll be in Doctor Strange.
Yeah, maybe.
We do know Rachel McAdams is coming back for Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and which is interesting because she was not coming back when Scott Derrickson was attached.
Yep. So Darcy, in her radiation and everything else she explores, also discovers that there's a television broadcast of some sort being sent out. And one of my favorite lines is the episode. She goes, "Get me a TV, an old one that's not flat."
Yeah.
Which made me feel old.
Yeah, because we all had those televisions.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, she gets but like growing up, like you had the big tube TVs that were thick and
the televisions that were too heavy to put on a table. They had to they were just a thing by themselves.
Yeah,
see that they're putting the TVs in on these big dollies because they know they're heavy.
Yes. Also, did she ever get her coffee?
No,
not in this episode.
No,
like,
but
can I get my coffee now?
I thought the brilliance of her finding this feed essentially like out inside the radiation, and you tune in, and it's the actual sitcom.
Yep.
That we've been watching, and they can see everything play out was so interesting.
Dwayne was absolutely right. On our last time we did this, where we had seen a glimpse of someone watching, and he thought it was Darcy, and he was spot on with that.
I thought that was
great. Right. So this was really cool that we got some clips of a sitcom that we didn't see in the prior episodes. But I want to take this opportunity now to pull up an image from the episode, which basically sums up what we're doing here. It was Jimmy Woo.
I brought that up on the Inner Geekdom show. It's
why hexagonal shape, why sitcoms, same time and space, is Vision alive, and then failed attempts, phone lines, digital drones.
Which can we also? I loved that when they see Vision in there, the first thing that Darcy says is, "Isn't he dead?"
Right.
We've had a few strange years.
Yeah,
He's dead, right?
yeah,
Right.
like
but she also says dead, not
Right, not
blip
smashed.
dead,
yes,
dead.
because he
And
died
this-
before the stuff.
This is an interesting point too. What Darcy and Jimmy and everyone is seeing, because everyone there starts watching, is the broadcast version. So stuff that we have seen in the first 3 episodes is censored
Yep.
for the signal that's going out. And so then there's a question, who's censoring it? It's probably Wanda, but maybe it's Agnes.
Yeah, and that was what was very interesting. Oh, go ahead, Dwayne.
I also, before we move too far past it, when Darcy is explaining the radiation, there's a very, very specific way it's explained, and it's very, very similar to the way that 4 particular heroes
Yep.
receive their powers.
I
It
noticed
sure
that too.
is.
Yes, it is.
It
So
sure is.
I think
And
that is
I,
going to
Someone
bring some
Well, also when she,
fantastic group of people in.
Well, I
into
love
the
someone said people keep saying they would love John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, but he was already in this episode of
Right.
WandaVision.
oh yeah,
It's Randall Park. It's Jim.
Jimmy Woo
Yes,
is
I noticed
Mr.
that too. I was
Fantastic
like,
confirmed.
so they are painting the course for those 4 fantastic individuals.
Well,
Yeah.
also I think isn't it when she's explaining that's when the director's like, "Someone get me a flight out of here." Like, that's when he started getting sketchy for me. It's
Yeah.
like, why are you leaving when it's about ready to hit the fan?
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's almost like he doesn't want to be a part of it for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't think
Here.
I don't think this is going to happen because he's not a big enough actor. But if Director Hayward ended up being Doctor Doom,
Sure.
That'd be
It
interesting.
would be interesting.
again, I don't think it will be because Josh Stamberg is mostly a talented but mostly a TV actor.
I loved though that when we're seeing everything play out. Oh yeah, that is. But we also saw that after that. Remember, Thanos goes to another planet later, and he creates life with the gauntlet again before he destroys it. So it moved through wherever they were at. I'll also say though, but the way the sitcoms were censored was very interesting, and you can see that they notice it too. Things are not right in what they're seeing. And that's why one of the things I liked is when Monica disappears in the episode and they're all watching going, wait, what do you mean she's gone? Where did she go? And so for us to go back into it and now we're seeing it play out because we didn't see what happened. And that whole sequence between Monica and Scarlet Witch is just like, because you see the anger and the rage, and it was like the look in her eyes. She was ready to kill.
Oh yeah.
So here's, and this is a critique that I've seen about this episode in particular. People are very bothered by the woman suffers trauma and goes crazy trope that
I
and
did
here's-
see one person we all know who felt that way.
This is what I have to say about that. Wanda, you are putting the crazy label. I do
Yep.
not think Wanda is crazy
Nope.
in the slightest.
No, me neither.
I think Wanda
Nope.
knows exactly what she's doing.
Yep.
Wanda is capable. She knows that she is capable of doing
She
something.
created this on her
Wanted
own.
to do it and decided to. She's not crazy.
Right. She's
She's
I also-
dealing with her trauma her way.
Right.
She is in
more-
full control of her faculties.
and
I do not
arguably
think
more
she's
so
crazy
than
at all.
maybe any other character in the MCU who's still alive. She has suffered so much.
Yes.
Yes. And that's I thought that was strange because I don't think anyone here thinks that Wanda's crazy. Like
Yeah.
not a single one of us would say that Wanda is crazy or not in control.
By pure
You know what I mean?
virtue
Like-
of the fact that she immediately recognized that Geraldine was not in on it and sent her out. That was that was a deliberate, clear-headed act.
Yep.
The same thing
And
with when the beekeeper arrived, right?
And-
What did
Yep.
she do?
Yeah.
Reverse it.
And I also wholeheartedly believe that this is not just a response to the loss of vision. I think that there is going to be something involving her children and why this has been enacted. I don't think that it's simply
I wanted
a
to.
reaction to the loss of vision.
Yeah,
This
I don't
might be
agree. I
going
agree.
too deep, but I wanted to bring up this. I can't find it, but earlier Mike K said Multiverse of Madness. The acronym is MOM. So he's wondering if something happens to.
Ooh.
It's interesting.
Here we go.
If you
Something that happens to the twins.
if you are aware of what happens in that whole storyline and what eventually creates the House of M situation,
Yep.
it is something happening to the twins.
Which
Mhm.
is funny because now Reefism is brought up, and this is something we can talk about a little bit. Do you guys think Doctor Doom will make an appearance in the MCU before
Yes.
the Fantastic Four?
Yes.
I do, and part of that is, to Dwayne's point, Doom was a big part of the House of M storyline. Doom was a big part of a lot of the stuff that Scarlet Witch
Well,
has actually gone through.
Okay, yes, he is a part of the House of M storyline because he's manipulated by Mephisto
Yep.
through another agent into helping that particular person recover the twins from Mephisto. But I do think that we're going to get him, and I think that we're going to get him in a trying to take over Stark
That'd be
Industries
interesting.
type of. I don't think that we're going to get him as Doctor Doom. I think we are going to get him as Victor Von
Von
Doom,
Doom,
the
yeah.
businessman.
Which is actually one of the things
before
that
we get him as Doctor Doom.
And that's one of
I
the
agree.
things that Fantastic Four actually did very well, starting with him. Like, I know people have their own feelings about those first two movies that Tim Story directed, but, like, I thought it actually got Doom the businessman quite brilliant.
I have a soft spot for the second one. I think it's pretty decent.
I actually really like the
I,
first one,
I
too.
love the Silver Surfer, so I have
Yeah.
a soft spot for the second one just for that.
It would be to what you're saying. I'm wildly speculating here, and it's not going to happen. But imagine if Justin Hammer is actually Victor Von Doom, because Sam Rockwell as Doctor Doom would be great. It's like you already have a character who you could just be like, "Oh, I was pretending to be Justin Hammer."
It wouldn't be the first time they've done that.
No,
I'm really so with what we've heard about Spider-Man, Far Far and Away, Spider-Man Far From Home, or no, not Far From Home, Spider-Man No Place Like Home,
Or Homeworld
Spider-Man
or something.
Home is Where the Heart Is,
Yeah.
Spider-Man
Home Alone,
Homies in the Hood,
Spider-Man, Home Alone, Lost in New York.
What we've heard about that particular film, I'm really, 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 really hoping that this is where we are introduced to Norman Osborn and whatever Norman Osborn we're going to get
Yeah.
in the MCU, because I want to see Hammer get brought into the fold, especially now if we're bringing Sword in. Give me Hammer and give me the real Iron Patriot.
I read somewhere that he is coming back for something.
Which
Willem
one?
Dafoe is.
Willem Dafoe.
No, I'm
is.
Sam Rockwell.
Sam is, yes, he's in Armor
yeah.
Wars.
Yeah.
I think they said he was in
Armor
Armor
Wars, yeah.
Wars.
It says
Yeah.
Hammer is another character on my list of great actors whose MCU characters had untapped potential. Because I don't hate Iron Man 2. I think it is fun. I think Sam Rockwell is great.
And he got to come back in the one shot, which was great.
Right,
was
but
the All Hail the
Bringing
King.
him back now, especially with Armor Wars and everything and Sword, it would be awesome.
Well, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that, obviously, too, because we also know Abomination's returning in She-Hulk. Like, we're going to start going back to a lot of this stuff from the early MCU that Feige thinks that he can do more with, which I think is great.
Let's talk about, like I said earlier, this episode reminds me of early season 2 Lost, where we get to see things that we've already seen from a different perspective. So one of the things that was really interesting to me was they sent the drone in.
Yep.
And then they end up with that photo, and Jimmy says, "Why did you colorize it?" And the tech said, "I didn't." And I thought that was really interesting.
And what was interesting about that, too, was that when it went in, it also became like a retro version of the drone that they set in.
Mhm.
So it was like a modern day drone that looked like something in the 50s, or the 60s, I should say, when she picks it up. Similarly, one of the things that I thought was interesting to that regard was also we saw the other version, like the version of the beekeeper guy being sent in. Same episode, very interesting to me.
Spider-Man, Spider homies.
I've got an interest. What if the only things? Well, now that the world is fully color, it doesn't apply as much. But in that particular instance, only things that came from the outside world could be colored.
Maybe.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah,
be
because
interesting.
Because if
like
you notice
people
the
he connected to turns into a jump rope from that time frame with the little.
yeah, it turned into, but it also has color.
I think anyone would have been able to walk in if they had tried to.
Yeah, and I think that Jimmy even tries
Yeah.
to get her not to do it. He's saying, no,
Yeah,
and
right.
You even mentioned that it's trying to draw you in. You can hear it. Say it.
Yeah, and well, no, he says it doesn't want you there. Can't you feel it?
yeah,
It's not necessarily that no one's able
pushing
to
you
walk
away.
in, but it's kind of like, oh, what am I trying to think of? But it gives you this like mental like projection. Stay away, like you get the heebie-jeebies when you walk
yeah,
by.
it's like a. Have you ever, if you guys lived in a small town, I know I did when I grew up, and there was always that house, that one house that everyone talked about, that like you walked by it and you felt weird and it felt eerie and it felt like it was pushing you away. You didn't want to go in. That's what it felt like to me. That's kind of the explanation to me. Is like it's almost like a haunted house. Stay the fuck away from it, right?
Yeah.
That's what to me, that's what that explanation felt like.
Yeah, I think the blood was red because again that was something from the real world creeping into the illusion.
I agree with that. Also, I think because that's also the same time when Wu is saying, Wanda, who's doing this to you. So again, the real world's interfering at the same time.
Well,
Yeah.
and so the question becomes, so obviously in that second episode, we heard the banging, right? All that loud noise. Is the banging every time something from the real world is going in? Because we know that they sent more than one drone. We know that they were... Anytime someone's trying to get in there, is that what we're hearing that noise come from? Because one of that time that we heard that noise could have been when Monica walked through, right? Because we don't see her until you get to that, like, woman's meeting thing.
Yep.
So that was something I was thinking about with it, was just,
I'd
yeah.
skip ahead a little bit and bring up this image. There's a little bit of a trigger warning here because I found this image very unsettling, intentionally so. And it's...
Oh, so creepy.
Oh,
And I love it.
I thought it was so effective. And now it's truly the facade, the illusion being stripped away. So is Wanda just basically reanimating Vision's corpse?
Yes, that's my question.
Which is really dark.
Right. Did she take his corpse with her from Wakanda when she got back from the snap and then just settled in New Jersey because everything's legal in New Jersey?
Well,
and then
my other question is, and I think we touched on this before, at the end of Endgame, Cap goes and puts the stones back where they belong in time. So where does he put Vision's stone?
So Vision's stone was Loki's scepter that he...
Okay.
That's when he fights himself.
Yeah.
So he put it back in the scepter?
Yep.
Yes.
I'll also say I thought that was such a great way to do it because, one of the great jokes in that first episode that people don't talk about a lot was my husband and his indestructible head.
I can answer. They did that before they had realized that Monica Rambeau was like shown in this show.
Yeah, because they hadn't seen her yet.
Yeah, they had not seen her yet, so they did. So they didn't know. Yeah, they didn't know that she had survived crossing the barrier.
And they also probably don't want to send anyone in case if you cross the barrier and like not be seen, right? Like you're trying to explore the situation.
Well, also maybe they don't know if you walk in normally if you retain awareness,
right?
And they think if you sneak in, you retain awareness and know that it's all mystical, weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but that image of zombie Vision, whatever you want to call it, was very unsettling. Well, and that's in a good way.
And that's why I liked that it was a playoff of what we knew what happened to him, which in that first episode, my husband and his indestructible head was such a great nod to her coping with the fact that we know that it was straight up pulled out of his head. Like
Right.
the stone was pulled out by Thanos, and so then to see that zombie version, which is now the second time we've seen a zombie-like version of any character, because we also saw Iron Man in Far From Home during the Mysterio sequence,
Mhm.
like coming out of the ground and like trying to attack Peter. I kind of like that we're seeing these little otherworldly versions of the characters, which is why I keep getting excited for Multiverse of Madness. I want to see more of that. I want to see like fucked up images of some of the heroes, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah,
And
me
it
exactly
scared the
what-
shit out of me.
I think he was just thrown out, probably same as
Yeah.
Monica. We just didn't see it because he was a kind of a throwaway character.
Yeah. I think there's more to that that we'll see. Because, I mean, he's like a one-off character, but, you know. I think everything matters, and everything's going to play out for a reason, and I just kind of love that while we're sitting outside in the real world, that Kat Dennings and Jimmy Woo start being like enamored with the show and feeling like this overwhelming need to be like,
When
"Ooh,
like
look what's
when
happening."
when Darcy awes at a romantic
Yes.
moment, and she's like, "What? I'm invested."
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, it was so good, and it made me happy, man. Like,
Well, they're very much the audience surrogates.
right.
Yeah, they're
Um,
force for us.
And I'm
Which-
I'm very interested to see if we end the show with Gray Vision.
I'd be super into
That's
Interesting.
I'm very interested to see if that is what
because we really
happens.
haven't seen Gray Vision yet.
No,
really,
we haven't.
obviously, other than that picture of a decaying version of him.
Yeah.
Which
Well, I mean,
gladly
Gray
go again.
Vision is what we receive when they finally do reconstitute Vision in the comics. So it would make sense because, like Shuri said, there is a way to, you know, there was a way to save him. He did
Yep.
not need the Infinity Stone in order to function.
No, and I think that Wanda, and she tried, but it was in the middle of all that stuff going on, and then when Thanos gets there and just rips the stone out, like, now you're in trouble. But there's always ways to reverse it.
That is one of the most heartbreaking scenes for me in the MCU because she thinks that she saved him,
Yeah,
and then Thanos has the time stone and is able to reverse it, and then
Yeah, I have to watch it all over again.
yeah, very hard stuff.
She not only has to live with the fact that she killed the love of her life, she also has to live with the fact that she was not able to save the love of her life.
right.
Oh,
Which is why, towards the end of the episode, one of the things that I very much liked is that we go back to the sitcom side, but we're seeing it less as the sitcom and more what it feels like. Vision's scared.
Yes.
Like
Terrifying.
that's one of the first times that we've seen real emotion from him in a way, because Vision doesn't necessarily show emotion, but he's scared of Wanda in that moment when he realizes that Geraldine's gone. He's scared, and he like there's something about that. Bettany delivers it perfectly. It's the look in his eyes, and you can tell he knows.
It also is a callback to a moment in Civil War. He says that I am not afraid of you.
right,
Mm-hmm.
and now
I
suddenly,
think in episode 3 he's in color. I don't think we see him gray until episode 4. It might maybe it's a blip that. So this reminds me of maybe my favorite joke in the episode where Darcy goes, "Do you want one?" and Jimmy gives this whole speech about wanting children.
oh yeah,
And then she's like, "I'm in a chip."
yeah, it's so good.
But yeah, I Darcy and Jimmy are like a great team, and if we're going to be splitting more time, I think it's so well cast and thought of who to bring back from prior in the MCU to anchor this other half of the show. And then you have Monica / Geraldine there as like in the middle.
Well, I also love their montage, them figuring out who's who in the cast. Like with, and I thought it was really interesting that Agnes doesn't have a driver's license. You don't see, you haven't found her yet.
Yeah, she's the, I believe her and Dottie, I believe,
Yes,
are the only people that were not identified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on the board.
I don't think you cast Catherine Hahn not to have her be
Something bigger.
something bigger.
Yeah.
I think we all know who she's going to be.
Yeah.
I've read other people theorize the name is deliberate.
And that's why I don't think that the criticism of, you know, Wanda going crazy over her loss is fair, because I think if you know who that, if we are correct in who we speculate that character is, this has so much more to do than just Wanda's loss of vision.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's there's so much more to this than just Wanda's, you know, suffering and trauma. Like, she's doing this deliberately.
Is it
Yeah.
possible that, and bear with me for a second here, in the
Of course.
time between Infinity War Endgame and this, she lost her kids. She's pregnant, she lost them. And the kids she had in this are not real?
It,
See,
I don't
yeah,
know,
so I'm not sure if we
because
had kids before.
I think that it's only been about a month, I think, is the time frame here post.
But
Yeah.
theoretically, if we found out she was pregnant during Infinity War and Endgame,
Did she get split?
Yeah, she did.
Okay.
she did.
So, I mean, maybe if she was pregnant when she was blipped.
Well,
Because,
she
I
did
mean,
tell Thanos, you took everything away from me.
And one of the things that like the whole opening of Infinity War with them is like trying to be this like normal romantic relationship and stuff, and so there's always that chance that we didn't know, and that
I'm just theorizing out loud because obviously her pregnancy is so fast.
right.
Yeah.
I don't think the kids are real.
It's interesting.
I think that, and this again, we're all theorizing here.
Right.
Of course.
And the woman who wrote this?
I think that she is currently pregnant. I think she found
Okay.
out
Okay.
that she is, and she's doing this kind of in an attempt to, you know, have a regular
Normal.
life,
Yeah.
have a nuclear family. You know, she doesn't actually have vision, so she found a way to create a
Vision.
loving, stable, you know, what she believes is a normal family situation for her children.
It's possible. That could work too, yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's gonna be. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it also went down the road as, you know, maybe she was pregnant when she was blipped, and then she came back to, you know, not being pregnant.
Civil War and Infinity War was like 5 years ago. Because remember, we're in a post Endgame timeline. Stuff changed. Like
Right. Civil
we
War
jumped
to
ahead.
Infinity War was 2 years, and now it's 7 years.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we've jumped ahead a lot. Like everything happening now is in a time frame of this Endgame situation. We have jumped ahead 5 years.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time, obviously, there to explore other things, but I mean, I think that there's something to that, and I think that Dwayne's absolutely right too. With the
I think
she's creating a
Dwayne's
nuclear family.
Possibility is very possible. I have a strong feeling the kids are not real, and it's her way of coping in some way with either the loss of her kids or the notion that she'll never be able to raise them with vision, something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
But Eric said, I think, when she said to Thanos towards the end of Endgame, "You took everything from me."
Mm-hmm.
That's a very strong point.
Right, because we're just assuming she's talking about vision. There could be more to go,
Yeah.
which means
Yeah.
And that would feel like a retcon to me because Wanda is always in the movies so far a small character, and now we're finally diving deeper. So
And as we've seen time and again, like every time Paul Bettany's been doing the circuit, he's like, you're going to look at the MCU differently by the time it's over. Both Age of Ultron and everything from Infinity War and Endgame. So if that's the case, there's a good way to do that type of stuff. I think it makes sense.
I also have to say I now really want to rewatch Age of Ultron. I know you did recently,
I
BJ.
did. I rewatched it the other night,
I might
and
throw it on in the next few days.
I thought that I've always liked Age of Ultron. I know I've always been the minority opinion that I actually prefer it to the first, and I went back to rewatch it and was pleasantly surprised how much more I even like it, just like with where the MCU is now. The way where it sits in the MCU feels weird on an initial watch, but go back now and it's like, oh shit, like the way it all fleshes out and works and feels,
Mhm.
just I love it.
I like all from what I remember, and I watched everything like in between Infinity War and Endgame. So I watched it fairly recently.
Right.
I think I like the first Avengers more overall.
Sure.
I do think it's a better made film. I think Joss Grew is a filmmaker. Visually, it's stronger. I do think it's hamstrung, perhaps the worst case in the entire MCU, other than Iron Man 2, of having
like
to
the
throw
building stone
things
stuff.
in there that are leading to other movies that don't fit in with the story, particularly Thor's Vision Quest.
Yeah, that is the one part that stands out. Yeah.
Really should have been cut, I think. But I do think Ultron is one of the best villains we've had in the MCU. And also it has some of the best hangout scenes.
Yes, absolutely.
There's some really great stuff of just the Avengers getting to be Avengers. And maybe one of my favorite scenes in all of the MCU is in that movie where Vision just so casually picks up Mjolnir.
Yeah, and everyone looks at him just because that's the moment where they're also scared of him. Because the lead up to that, I mean, we're not talking about Age of Ultron, but now we are.
Well, we are, which is fine.
But, yeah,
it's the Watercooler chat. This is not. We're reviewing WandaVision, and that's it.
One of the things I've always liked about it was that whole sequence is also the beginning of Civil War. Yep. Like the creation of Vision is where that line starts to be split, and the way it plays out with all of them being so scared of him and so nervous, and then he picks up the hammer, and it was like, oh no, he's totally all good because he was able to do it. Like,
also, I am now more sure than ever post Endgame that Cap was able, because when he goes to pick up Mjolnir, you sort of see it that he could have, and he just decided not to for at the time.
See, I went back to watch Age of Ultron after I watched the first 2 episodes of WandaVision because I was going back to that commercial in the first episode with the Stark toaster.
Oh yeah,
direct parallel to when she's talking about that missile that was in her apartment.
Yep.
It's that light flashing is that, because that's the thing I've been paying attention to most for some reason is the commercials low-key stealing this series. So far, is everything is dealing with Wanda's life in the MCU up to this point.
Obviously, as we saw the second one.
Is a fascinating question. Who is responsible for the commercials?
Mm-hmm.
Is it her or is it someone
Darcy and everyone watching can see the commercials. We saw that they saw them. And so the question, who is censoring it and who's making the commercials, may be the same person. And I'm not convinced it's Wanda who's doing that.
Yeah, and it's like we saw, obviously, the Strucker watches, and Strucker was the one who had kidnapped them and done all that stuff to them. Like, he's the reason they have powers.
The soap being like, be born again.
And it was Hydra soap.
Hydra soap.
Yep.
He's back.
Hi, Sean. Welcome back.
The beard quotient has been raised significantly.
Where have you been, Sean?
You're muted.
Can't hear you, Sean.
I'm a very important man who gets very important phone calls. So,
Okay.
that's all I can say.
Going back to the villains that have been criminally underused, and there's no way for this one to come back, but I think that he was completely misused in Iron Man. But Obadiah Stane was like the story that we could have gotten
right.
Instead of what we got in Iron Man 1, if we could have got a true demon in the bottle,
I think they did their own version of demon in a bottle as much as they're going to in Iron Man 3, exchanging alcoholism for post Avengers PTSD.
But I mean the true. If we could have got a true loss of Tony's control over Stark Industries.
Right.
Like, if we could have actually had him lose control of Stark Industries, I would have loved to see that.
So what we know so far is Cap, Vision, and Thor can pick up Mjolnir.
Yes.
And we're going to see Jane Foster.
Foster.
And
if
we get
Beta Ray.
Valkyrie.
Yeah.
I think Valkyrie is possible.
Yep.
Because Valkyrie is one of my favorite MCU characters, also because Tessa Thompson's a fucking goddess.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Respect must be paid to put her name in any and all things. And to think I first saw her in season 2 of Veronica Mars, and I was like, who's this? And now I'm like, oh, that's who this is.
She's wonderful.
She's incredible.
Awesome. I can't wait for Love and Thunder.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. Thank you, Randy.
Did Hela hold Mjolnir, or did Hela just block it and
She
just
catched it.
destroy
She
it?
caught it.
It was originally her weapon too.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
And I think that has more to do with the fact that she is a higher order of deity than Thor.
Yeah.
I don't think that has to do with the purity of Hela.
Speaking of Mjolnir and Darcy, Elizabeth, when Darcy showed up, she's like, "It's Meow Meow." Because that always stuck with her that Darcy called it Meow Meow in the first Thor. Oh God, this is also fun.
It is.
I
Sean, you
Conversations.
you really weren't here for literally any of what we were talking about with episode 4. What were your thoughts on episode 4?
I loved it, dude. I loved it. I loved Darcy in this. I really liked seeing Monica Rambeau.
You missed me bringing this up, Sean.
Yeah, I really liked this. So same time and space, why sitcoms? Yeah, I mean, I really like the whiteboard sequence. Can I say? Did we talk about the beginning, the opening of the episode?
Yeah, we talked
We
about
did.
What do you think of your thoughts?
Wow!
Look at that face. Look at that face.
Wow!
Yeah.
What a
Well,
what a way to just, what a way. Cheers to whoever's in charge of this show.
Well, I was going to say, too, we talked about
Yeah,
it a little bit
people-
without you.
People asked, why is the budget of this show so high? That episode, that opening,
Yeah.
is the reason that the budget is so high.
It was so cool, and you know what? There was a really
So-
cool effect. So I watched it again.
It was,
It was so crisp. I watched it again this morning with Jill because I watched it at midnight on Thursday because I started seeing shit on Twitter. I'm like, all right, I got to watch it. And then I watched it again this morning with Jill. And when her head is being knit back together, it's not her. It's so interesting, the choice of like how they did the dusting, the undusting, because it's a hollow shell of her head being knit together. It's not the physical matter of her head. It's the imprint in reality of her. And I thought, go back and watch how that happens. It's so cool. It's so beautiful.
The only time we had seen someone coming back from the blip before was Far From Home, and it was all in wide shot, and it was not
Right.
a character we were. Well, and in Endgame.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
when did we
that's-
see come back in Endgame? I don't remember. Didn't we? We
didn't-
didn't see it. We just saw the portals.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So to see someone up close and personal in a
This is our first time seeing it.
medium shot was gorgeous and harrowing. That whole sequence was harrowing.
And that's
Yeah.
what I continue to go back to. And I said it earlier when we were talking about it. I think that the blip and the aftermath and the return of everything from the blip is going to be mined a lot as we move forward. We're going to see a lot of different perspectives of people on that day. Like, similarly, as we saw in Homecoming, right? We saw Michael Keaton and them after the Avengers and, like, cleaning up New York. And we saw a ground level of how that affected people in the MCU. We're going to see more of that with this version too, because again, we saw Scott Lang dealing with it. We've seen now Monica Rambeau coming back from it. We've seen videos in Far From Home. Like, this is going to be explored a lot. And I think that some of what happened is even going to play into, like Dwayne said, I think that, and Maxwell both said, I think the snap plays a part into how Wanda is too.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be more there.
Because Wanda was snapped away, right? So she wasn't
Yes,
there
she
for okay. So because I had it took me a minute to kind of reestablish this theory correctly. I had a theory that the town had kind of been there for a little bit, that maybe it had happened sometime during the snap, but
No, she was
then I remember she was snapped away.
Real quick, Max, if you can bring up that whiteboard image again.
Oh, I'd love to.
Here we go. I want to do a deep dive real quick. Why hexagonal shape? We talked about it before. You can take it down so people can see our beautiful faces.
And look, let me tell you, rarely on the internet is there such a collection of 4 beautiful faces.
Rarely.
And PJ.
I was gonna say there's 5.
I wasn't saying which one I wasn't counting as beautiful.
I know who we're talking about here.
Progress update 31/2020. He has now become self-aware of a real deep cut inside joke that only PJ and Maxwell got.
I get it. I love it.
I
Now I'm hot. I was cold and now I'm schwitzing.
As we talked about, I believe in episode
I got the
2.
crystal boxes on my shirt,
Ooh, nice.
even though it's too big now, but I can still wear it around the house. 2/3
in
of my wardrobe is too big now.
Yay!
in episode 2, when we initially talked about the beekeeper, we talked about how it kind of was reminiscent of AIM and the way they're represented in the comics, and definitely looked like that in the hazmat suit.
Oh yeah.
that
Oh yeah.
wore. Well, the symbol for AIM is hexagonal. I don't think that that's how it's going to play out, but it's just something in an Easter egg that I think that particular one was done on purpose to invoke that thought process within people.
So speaking of episode 2 and the beekeeper, you guys didn't mention it the last time. The manhole only shows up once.
Yeah.
Beekeeper, because during the whole episode, it's just clear pavement. There's no manhole.
I realized that after.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot.
Out in the chat, it's like, someone say something about it.
Also, I want to point out Christoph Beck, the composer, has done a great job, and so far there are albums for the first 3 episodes available on Apple Music and Spotify. So if you're looking for some good music to listen to, and I like that they're doing episode by episode, which they did for the first season of Mandalorian, and then the second season they just put out 2 volumes. I like that Sean is drinking, and I've had an energy drink and a thick coffee, and now I'm like, woo!
Well, I was
Which compared to where I was at the start of this, where I was falling asleep in my chair, is like.
to be
Moving
fair,
on.
I was drinking the orange mango monster with tequila. So
I must say,
I'm a man of class.
sounds simultaneously repulsive and wonderful, and I can't decide which side I am erring on right now.
Yeah, it's one of
So
these.
look,
You're like,
we've been going about
this
90.
this is Monster Mango Loco. Following Halloween each year, friends
Now,
and family
Sean.
gather together. Yeah,
That does have quite a bit of sugar and stuff that's bad for you,
I know. I'm trying to do better, but
as opposed to the monster I had,
Ooh,
which
did
still
you
has
have-
a lot of shit that's bad for you.
Did you have the
but
white
no,
can?
Sugar. Yeah, this is my favorite one. This is good stuff.
I used to drink those a lot, but
The pink
Now,
can is what it's all about. I'm just
If
throwing
you
that out
find
there.
people at the Monster Corporation,
are they a corporation?
the 2012 Monster Energy Company, are watching, and you would like to sponsor us, you can send me as many of these as you want, and I will gladly drink them and show them on air.
I think that's fair. Let's do it.
Side effects may vary.
You know what's good?
Uh,
Delicious cake, raising cans.
Ooh,
Yeah, racism could because it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
it's 4:35 here.
Yep.
All right,
It's
look, we've been going
4:35
for
in
an
New York.
hour and a half. Does anyone have any final thoughts on episodes 3 and 4 of WandaVision?
No, I'm just glad the show exists. I'm glad.
I'm
that they're
loving.
taking the swing
I
that
I
they're
am
doing.
loving it so much. I'm having so much fun watching it, theorizing about it. I'm actually probably going to go back and watch all four of them again before next week, which I don't often do with television.
It's just so good, and I think I'm going to rewatch all the episodes again too. I tend to go back. I've seen every episode I think twice.
I think I'm definitely going to watch Age of Ultron again this week before.
I would.
Maybe I'll buy myself the 4K.
It's so funny because I don't know if anyone noticed, but I think I sent it to Maxwell. After the episode, I took a screenshot and I was like, I appreciate that Disney Plus is like, you should really be watching Age of Ultron again.
Yeah, I noticed
like
that too.
at the last 2 episodes, they've
Yeah.
put like if you watch this, watch Age of Ultron. So to the chat, if you guys have not seen it in a while, there's a reason that they're being like, of all things, revisit Age of Ultron. Revisit Age of Ultron. I can assure you it matters.
There's no post-credit scene unless you watch Age of Ultron.
And you know what,
Right.
guys, do yourself a favor. Go watch Godzilla Final Wars. It's not streaming anywhere, but you can rent it for $3 on Amazon.
Well,
Totally
Sully,
worth it.
let me take this opportunity to once again promote that on tomorrow night's Unwind, we will be talking about Big Boys. And I think you'll be with us. And for that, we'll be joined also by David B. Music, who is a bit of a Godzilla expert. He hosts a Godzilla podcast. And the great Aaron Nyworth, who hosts Out Now with Aaron and Abe podcast. He's on Twitter at Aaron's PS4, and he is quite a Godzilla expert.
I'm
So
super
that'll be a lot of
excited.
fun.
my expertise will get shown up real quick. But let me tell you, I do love Godzilla.
King Kong.
I was waiting.
I am King Kong myself, but I like Godzilla. But the last time we did Godzilla related content on this channel, Chadwick Boseman died. So I just hope nothing bad happens tomorrow night when we are talking back.
Yeah, Patty, King Caesar is in Godzilla Final Wars. He's also in Magic the Gathering now. Don't ask.
All right. Look, a couple notes. Like I said, the unwind tomorrow night.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we talking again?
Yes. Monday night, we are doing a watch along of American Pie. Now, I'm not going to be here for that because I'm going to be doing a conflicting watch along with Abby Friel of High School Musical. So, yeah, you got to choose if you want which you want to watch. Sorry.
That means that I need to find someone to watch American Pie with me.
Yeah.
So anyone who wants to watch American Pie with me on Monday.
Circumstance in this world where I'm going to say no to watching and talking about High School Musical.
Is it High School Musical or High School Musical, the musical, the show?
No, High School Musical, like the first film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just wanna because this is in the chat.
I am a huge fan of High School Musical, the series. I cannot wait for season 2. I love that show.
They did my boy Zilla dirty. Not only did they drop him out of the spaceship, they started playing.
I don't want to hear him talk about.
Well,
They drop him out of the spaceship. They start playing Sum 41, and then actual Godzilla lays the smackdown on him. Now, let me tell you, I much prefer actual Godzilla, but still, at least let my shitty American Godzilla put up a little bit of a fight.
Look, I'm going to pull back the curtain here because I'm super hyped up on caffeine and say that I let PJ pick a movie that I specifically don't like, so I don't feel like I'm missing anything.
I literally just went on HBO Max and was scrolling down. That's how it happened. And Maxwell knows.
Come watch High School Musical with me and Abby.
You know what? No watch along Monday then. We're just taking Monday off.
No.
The gauntlet's been thrown down.
You know what?
Actually,
Patrick,
don't dislike American Pie.
We're gonna do a watch along of Godzilla versus Megalon on Monday.
That works.
All right, fine. Let's do it.
Tuesday, Box 3, Box 5, Box Bath and Beyond will be out for everyone with our special silent guest. Patrons will get that today. I thought they already did. I apologize. I'm going to go post it on the Patreon as soon as we sign off here. Thank you all also who watched the first episode of Book Nook. The response was great. The viewership was really strong. For our second episode, we're going to be reading this beauty here, Children of Blood and Bone. And what I will say is it's about double the length of our first book. So if you intend to get it and read it, I would do it sooner rather than later. It's a big boy at over 500 pages. It's a fast read. I am going to read it for my second time starting today or tomorrow.
Should we? Do you want to announce our guest?
Our
guest is confirmed.
Okay, yeah, please do.
Yes. So our guest is going to be my really good friend and co-host of Dessert Men Live, Aiden Cossack, is going to be our guest.
By the way, if anyone's curious on approximate read time of Children of Blood and Bone, according to Kindle and Audible, it's 10 hours. So
I mean,
budget your time wisely.
It is a young adult book, and it reads fairly fast. I've read 500-page books that take 2 years to read, and 500-page books that take 2 days to read. And this is more of the 2 day to. I mean, depending on your reading speed, but yeah. Otherwise, Tuesday night we're doing our patron AMA, our January patron AMA in February. If you are not already a patron and you would like to participate in the AMA, you can join at any tier starting at $2. And I put yesterday on our patron page a query. So if you have any questions you want to pre-ask us, either if you can't be there live on Tuesday or you just the questions come to you, post them on that thread and we will be sure to answer them on Tuesday. Those are always fun. I plan to drink during that for what it's worth. Dwayne, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me anywhere and everywhere at Burkmade. If there's a platform and I'm on it, that's where you're going to find me. And please check out Technical Difficulties.
Please don't think we didn't discuss calling it Book.
Oh, yes. It was discussed.
It was
discussed. It was. That was the working title. That was the working title for about 3 months.
Yeah, and then
This
we're like,
show's been in the works for a long time.
Yeah, we're like, let's do Book Nook instead. Eric, where can everyone find you online? And thank you for joining us. You're welcome back any Saturday we do this. Always a pleasure to have you.
Pleasure talking anything with you, fine gentlemen. You can find me on Twitter at handsome_cheese, where you can see, I'll let you know what movies I'm viewing. You can see my sad thoughts of my Detroit Lions and other random thoughts.
And also, if you follow us on Twitter, the PJ Campbell Network, you may have noticed
Yeah, you might see a picture of something.
a picture of some sort that may suggest something that may or may not be happening in a couple weeks.
Stay tuned.
Sean, where can everyone find you online? What do you got going on?
You can find me at twitch.tv/Sean Sully, where I will be doing some miniature painting coming up. Maybe later tonight if I get a chance. Or Jedi Fallen Order or Bioshock or something, who knows? Or like Warzone with Dwayne. I do a lot of shit on there.
Warzone makes me so angry.
I'm terrible at that game. I think we're going to try to get Max roped in to play with
I was
us.
playing last night, and like I landed in a great place. I found a house with a lot of cash and weapons, and I went to a buy zone and I bought a gas mask, and I turned around and got shot in the head. I was like, God damn it!
That tends to be the way.
That's about right.
I was like, I'm so ready to go. I have all this cash. And then I got to the gulag and I had no weapon. I had to use fists.
Ooh, the
and
tip
then-
with fist. Use both triggers.
Because he beat me. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people only use one trigger and that only throws one fist.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And then you can also find me over on Twitter. Forgot the name of that fucking platform. Twitter at Suit Up Sully. Also, now I'm a member of Corruption, so that's pretty cool.
Yes, congratulations.
Refism. I have much respect for Aaron Rodgers, but I would sure love it if he retired sometime. My best friend's a Packers fan, so I can't hate him. But I would love it if he just left. Maybe he was snapped during those 5 years, and maybe that's when the Lions win the Super Bowl.
Dwayne, what do you got?
For
I already did his
Your
plugs.
plugs.
I already did my plugs.
Yeah.
Jesus,
You can
Sean.
find him at Burkmaid everywhere.
Look, I think in a little bit after this, PJ and I are going to go live on stereo for the first time and talk about the.
Fuck am I, chop liver?
You can only have two people, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so PJ and I are going to go live on stereo and talk about Benson and Moorhead's films Resolution and The Endless, which Sean also hasn't seen. So another reason why.
Look at his face. He's never even heard of those movies. And he's been on stream as we've talked about them before.
Wouldn't be appropriate for that chat. Anyways, follow me on stereo at Cinemaxville, which is also my Twitter and Letterboxd handle. Instagram at Cinemaxville Inc. You can find me, of course, on the PJ Campbell Network. And Tuesday nights on Rachel Silvestrini's channel at 12:15 Pacific, where we do an after show for Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. And in the most amazing thing, on last week's episode, the creator of the show, Austin Winsberg, joined us for half an hour.
Oh, nice.
He answered all of our questions that he was willing to. He revealed some fun secrets about upcoming episodes. He was super charming. So if you haven't watched that, do go back and watch it because it was such a delight to have him on the show. It was kind of mind-blowing that he was like, yeah, I'll join you. It's like, but it was awesome. Super fun.
I do have another thing. I was asked to be on Jake Berlin's YouTube channel, Whiskey Jedi. We talked about pilots. We talked about what makes a good pilot and what makes a bad space battle. It was a lot of fun. Go check that out on his YouTube channel. You'll be seeing a little more of me over there too.
Yeah. And of course, PJ is at PJ_Campbell on all social platforms. Why are you pointing at Ben Quadranos?
Because someone in the chat said that I've got a face behind me. It's Ben Quadraneros.
You don't see the man standing behind you? All right, folks. Thanks for chilling with us on the water cooler chat. We will see you next Saturday, and we'll see you tomorrow for the unwind. Be safe. Wear your masks.
Wear your fucking masks.
Over your nose.
And always act with empathy and compassion first.
Hi, guys.
That's not the... Jesus Christ.
unusual couple, you know.
Oh, I don't think that was ever in question.
At last, that twilight